It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you so much for being here.
This is it. We're down to the final hour of 2024 for our broadcasting. For me and you, Dan Menace will be in here next week and be keeping you company and keeping you informed. But this is it. I mean, this is...
Yeah.
I mean, what a year. Seriously.
I know, when you look back.
I think I should be more exhausted than I am. It feels like I should be totally worn down, but I'm not. I'm anxious and excited about 2025. The anxious part, in part, yesterday was kind of increased. A little bit more anxiety going, oh, man. You got to get it. The GOP is going to have to get this right. Trump is, look, with the decisive victory that he had, what played out yesterday should have gone much differently. And it's mind-boggling and also confounding because, look, this is what the American people wanted. You campaigned on some things, but at the very least, you've got to demonstrate your consensus-building ability with your own party. The other side is not even a question. It has to be within your own party.
Well, you've got to be honest with yourself, and you and I have said this for the longest time. If you're a Republican and you're a conservative, you have no reason to lie. You've no reason to you have no reason to exaggerate. You don't. We've always said, look, you're going to have to make cuts eventually to the federal budget. It cannot continue to go on the way that it's going on. Everybody knows that. I'm not saying anything that everybody doesn't know already. And so we see the problem. We know it has to be done. Mm-hmm. But the fact is nobody wants to do it if it's going to affect them in any way.
Right.
And that's human nature. If it's going to affect you in some way, that's economics. What incentive do you have to hurt yourself?
Right.
In the short run, maybe not in the long run. But the fact is, we have been way overspending. We're doing what I view as the most immoral thing we do in this country, which is put what we want today on future generations. When you think about it, think about this. This country was formed on taxation without representation. I mean, that's how people died for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we found the loophole.
Yep.
We're gonna do what we want today and put it on our children and grandchildren.
Yep.
That's the reality. People don't want to look at it that way because when you don't want to think about that. I mean, that's the ultimate in selfishness. I'm going to put what we want today on our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren, and all the future generations. That's what we're doing.
Right.
No longer can we sit there and live in the fairy tale world that we would even get a few years ago from some of our moderate to liberal listeners. You guys are making an exaggeration over the debt problem in this country. Mm-hmm. Well, now we've all felt what it can do before it even becomes incredibly damaging fiscally to this country. We saw it with the inflation. Everybody saw it, and nobody likes it. We know it now. We have felt it. We still feel it. You've got a Republican Party coming in, and you've got people like, Elon Musk, Ramaswamy, who are advisors to Trump and going to run the Department of Government Efficiency, which is basically a private group just to recommend what should be done, and there's no problem with that.
Right.
Democrats were screaming, yesterday, Elon Musk, he's not an elected representative. That's got nothing to do with any of this. Nothing. Congress votes the way Congress votes. There are always outside influences. But This is a Republican Party through the incoming administration that said, we're going to cut, and we're going to cut big time. Mm-hmm. They said that. Mm-hmm. They didn't have to do that in order to win the election. The public was not screaming for massive cuts. Now, we need to have massive cuts, but the public wasn't screaming for it. They weren't.
Right.
That was thrown in there as like, we're going to show conservatives how serious we are. You and I have talked about this. This is something the administration, and you can sit there and say, well, should it have been the administration or should it have been, Johnson, the Speaker of the House that led this. I don't care. You get it done somehow.
Yeah.
And you communicate effectively between the two so you don't come to the point where you got to yesterday.
Right.
And you find a way to do it before you have to argue it out in public. And they didn't do it. The other thing is then when it happens, I'm looking at the lead headline in Fox News. Musk blames House Democrats for the failed spending bill vote.
That's one of the first things I saw, after it fell through.
And that's pure, with all due respect for the great things that he has done, that's pure bull manure.
Yep.
This bill failed because conservative Republicans got really excited. We're talking about real conservative Republicans, not the so-called moderate or liberal rhinos. Conservative Republicans who were so excited about this administration coming in that said, not only are we going to cut, we're going to cut big time.
Right.
They're the ones that took this down. If you wish to ignore reality, go ahead. And that's what Elon Musk is doing. He's ignoring the reality of actually what happened. And what happened was conservatives said, no, what do you mean a clean, raising the debt limit? What are you talking about? We can do that next year, and we can use that as leverage to get other things that we need to get done. And to sit there and take the debt limit and get nothing out of it, we need to cut. And what did we do here? Another $110 billion of spending that's not paid for.
Well, again, it's from the guy who's leading, along with Ramaswamy, the Department of Government Efficiency, which was part of that, Kerry, of that promise to be fiscal conservatives. Let's go to work on finding all the fat. We believe $2 trillion. And then pointing the finger at the Democrats here, wait a minute, these are 38 fiscal conservatives that are saying, no, we want to walk the walk.
Let's play Chip Roy. This is Chip Roy yesterday, and this is before the second bill went down to defeat.
I was just texting with my son back home in Austin, who I haven't seen in quite a long time because I'm here trying to fight for him. When I got through cancer about 12 years ago, I made my promise to my kids that I would do everything I can to save this country. And what we're doing right now is to continue to double down on the things that are destroying the republic. We are going to increase the debt ceiling, not just $4 trillion, that's false. We have spent $4.7 trillion in additional debt in the last 19 months. We're going to increase the debt by $5 trillion. That's what's going to happen right here by Republicans, increasing the debt $5 trillion. And what are you doing in the same bill? $110 billion unpaid for. Because you never have any ounce of self-respect to go out and campaign saying you're going to balance the budget, and then you come in here and pass $110 billion unpaid for. On top of the $200 billion you did for WEP, you guys won't agree with that, but the fact of the matter is $330 billion. Congratulations, you've added to the debt since you were given the majority again on November 5th. It's embarrassing. It's shameful. Yes, I think this bill is better than it was yesterday on certain respects, but to take this bill yesterday and congratulate yourself because it's shorter in pages but increases the debt by $5 trillion is asinine. And that's precisely what Republicans are doing. I'm absolutely sickened by a party that campaigns on fiscal responsibility and has the temerity to go forward to the American people and say, you think this is fiscally responsible. It is absolutely ridiculous. It also turns off PAYGO. It turns off the $1.7 trillion in automatic cuts under PAYGO. Because this side of the aisle is profoundly unserious about actually reducing deficits, just as my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are profoundly unserious about reducing deficits. The entire body has been racking up debt for my entire life. $36 trillion. $1 trillion of interest. We rack up $1 trillion every 100 days. Now, what are we going to do about it? We're going to run around and talk about cutting taxes, but not doing what's necessary to cut the spending along with the cut taxes. My other side of the aisle, my colleagues will say, oh, no, we got to increase taxes, but we'll do anything to cut spending. And so here we sit in the same mess.
Chip Roy yesterday, as Dominic Pino wrote in National Review, Chip Roy's position on the debt ceiling is the right one for fiscal conservatives and is consistent with how the debt ceiling has been used in the past to achieve deficit reduction. Republicans must raise a debt ceiling to prevent default, but they can wait until next year to do so when they will have control over both chambers of Congress and the White House. And Roy is right that when they raise it next year, it should be part of a legislative package that includes spending cuts such as full repeal of the so-called Inflation Reduction Act, the rescission of unspent funds from the American Rescue Plan Act, reforming the suite of anti-poverty programs that currently cost almost $30,000 per person in poverty per year, slashing agriculture and higher education subsidies, addressing the $236 billion in improper payments, adopting already existing GAO recommendations that would save $208 billion. And he's right. And the thing that gets us, and you know, if you were listening earlier, we've coming up next year, we're going to have a new segment. Good Josh Hawley, bad Josh Hawley. Josh Hawley can be great when he's arguing with these professors and at the universities on the radical transgender movement. But at the same time, over the last couple of days that he's out there promoting on Fox News, and Fox News does not challenge him, by the way.
Right.
Nobody challenges him when he's out there stating the fact that, you know, he wants to cut, we need to cut, and then he proposes the biggest expansion of welfare benefits in my life and then wishes to hide it within the tax system, and people believe he's a fiscal conservative, is just an abomination. Then you have, again, this incoming administration. They didn't have to promote that they were going to cut $2 trillion, but they got conservatives excited and then completely capitulate at the last moment, and Trump is included in that.
Well, it's one of the most talked about things during the transition is the Department of Government Efficiency.
Yep. And the guy who's ahead of the Department of Government Efficiency, Elon Musk, is blaming the non-passage of this bill on Democrats when it's Republicans and conservative Republicans who are looking at him saying, wait a minute, you're saying you're the Department of Government Efficiency. We're trying to get you to the point where there's accountability. We can use something as leverage. Right. And you're saying to hell with it.
Right.
So how serious, Elon Musk, are you actually? And Donald Trump, how much do you really wish to cut is what they're asking you.
Yep.
That's why 30, and you're not talking about the typical moderate to liberal rhino. These are fiscal conservatives. Nancy Mace voted against this. Chip Roy voted against this. They're saying, you told us you're going to do this. We have an opportunity to start, and you're saying, no, let's push it down the road again. And you expect us to believe you're going to cut $2 trillion a year? Stop bull manuring us, is what those conservatives are telling the administration coming in.
Well, are you going to do it or not? Is it going to happen or not? We warned early on. If the best thing that might come out of it, maybe at the most, is a public awareness campaign. But I said the other night, I don't want a long list of pork barrel things like we've seen in the past. And, we spent $2 million on studying what kind of cocaine pigeons prefer. I don't know. Let's talk about the government spending that's going on. That's part of it. That's a given. Let's talk about what's going on right now on the floor in the House and what's been happening in recent days. I said that the other day, kind of knowing you're not going to get a deal done because I didn't see the makeup. I don't see how you do that because I didn't think, my gosh, Doge should be on the side with the 38 Republicans.
Yeah.
Saying the rest of the GOP needs to get it together and shape up this bill to look like something real. We'll save the big items, again, to when you can leverage it and actually get something and do that in reconciliation next year. But you can't do a victory lap here.
Yeah, and don't blame the Democrats. This is on the Republicans.
Right.
Democrats, are going to vote against it.
It's a given.
You know they are.
You don't even need that head count.
And your opposition, this is a strange thing. The opposition to the incoming administration and the Department of Government Efficiency is the people that actually agree with them and are serious about cutting and are excited about what the incoming Trump administration told them they're going to do.
Right.
And now they feel the incoming Trump administration is actually backing off.
Right.
And the thing is, look, we know it's going to be hard, and you and I didn't expect a lot to happen during this period. But as we said yesterday, even before Elon Musk came out and said it's a Democrat's fault, don't BS us.
Right.
If you can't do it now, admit you can't do it. Don't BS us. And Elon Musk saying it's the Democrats' fault was BSing. 866-90-RED-I.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by Howes Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Bradford Wiles is an associate professor at Kansas State University, extension expert there, specializing in early childhood development and helping parents with issues along that line. But this time of year, what is the question he gets asked most often?
What's the best toy for children?
And his answer is there's no best, but he says there are a couple of qualities to look for. First,
the ability to play with it on your own, but to also play with someone else.
Including the parents. And the number two quality?
Toys that sort of force the imagination.
So some examples, and we're not endorsing these particular toys, but Bradford says look for toys like...
Magnetiles are great, building blocks. Legos are awesome. Just make sure you pick them up because a Lego on the foot, yeah, it hurts. Ask me how I know, Gary.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. Bradford says almost any kind of game would be a great gift.
Just make sure that the age that's on the box, it matches the age for your child.
And he says that goes for all toys. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the bottom of the hour, we'll get to the Wall Street Journal story now. The Wall Street Journal talking about how Biden, everybody knew he was incompetent.
Yeah.
That everybody in the administration over the last 4 years have been pathologically lying to you. It was so bad to the point he couldn't even attend national security meetings. Wow.
Putting a bow on another year of Red Eye Radio. Merry Christmas from Eric and Gary.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Merry Christmas, everyone. Well, the story that came out yesterday didn't surprise anyone, but at least now you've got a major newspaper, the Wall Street Journal, who talked to 50 different people in Biden's orbit. And the story came out yesterday. White House aides hid Biden's apparent mental decline from day one of his presidency.
Shocked.
White House aides covered up President Biden's apparent mental decline from day one of his presidency, shielding the aging commander-in-chief from the public and even rearranging his schedule after horrible performances. A report revealed on Thursday the lack of access to the nation's president has been well known in Washington, with Biden hosting the fewest large press conferences in modern history and frequently descending into gaffes at the podium when he appeared. But how much the White House made up for the haziness had until now been hidden, according to aides, Democrat lawmakers, and donors who spoke with the Wall Street Journal. Presidential staff formed a tight shell around Biden right after he took office amid the COVID-19 pandemic, with staff immediately limiting his in-person interactions in January of 2021, according to the Wall Street Journal. But staffers also began making adjustments to daily plans when the president appeared tired or kept stumbling on the world stage, both figuratively and literally. By spring of 21, meetings were being rescheduled to accommodate for his good days and bad days. According to the Journal, a national security official told an aide at the time he has good days and bad days, and today was a bad day, so we're going to address this tomorrow. Meetings were often scheduled for later on in the day, a fact first disclosed after Biden's debate flop against President-elect Donald Trump, when staffers admitted that then the Democratic nominee had difficulty functioning outside a 6-hour window that closed around 4 p.m. Daily. Once inside the room with the president, officials were instructed to make their briefing short and to the point. Private discussions with even some of his top cabinet picks, including Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, grew more infrequent. One cabinet official eventually stopped reaching out to schedule talks with the commander-in-chief after repeatedly being told, sorry. An ex-aide revealed. The White House also hired a voice coach, Hollywood mogul and campaign co-chairman Jeffrey Katzenberg, to try to improve his voice. Other staffers removed negative reports from Biden's stack of news for the day, misleading him about the public's opinion of his job performance, which reached a 70-year low in 2024. Press Secretary Andrew Bates disputed the characterization of his boss. President Biden speaks with members of his cabinet daily and with most members multiple times a week, staying close with them about the implementation of key laws and strengthening our national security, Bates said in a statement. President Biden leads a modern administration. Cabinet meetings are an important tradition, but the contemporary work environment remains that they can be fewer and far between. But the signs had been there throughout the term of his Oval Office. He frequently relied on note cards, was spotted having large directions printed for him, often mixed up names of foreign dignitaries and other facts. The president's sit-down with special counsel Robert Hur that was later deemed his willful retention of classified documents, and also tested his mental stamina. And it goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on about how he couldn't even do national security briefings some days. Wow.
He's unfit.
Yep.
And it is known. It's known by his inner circle. And they're building this protection around him. And it's a very dangerous situation. He is still in the role of commander-in-chief and has no ability to fulfill that role.
And remember when he would come out and say he's doing fine in the polls, and everybody go, what the hell is he talking about?
Right.
That's because they kept it away from him.
Right. Yes. His internal polls, too.
Yeah.
It was like they didn't show him anything.
Yeah. They kept it away. They
would just, I'm guessing they just glossed over it. You're doing fine. Polls are great. Don't believe the hype.
Yep.
Don't believe you're doing great.
They let him believe. They didn't tell him the truth. What else didn't they tell him? And like I said, how many decisions?
Well, again, no negative news when they gave him the news of the day, basically. No negative news about him. None.
But what did they tell him when the Pentagon fired off missiles in the Middle East?
Right.
What did he know?
Right. We asked then.
Yeah.
By the way. That was close to that was during the Lloyd Austin thing. And
so everything that you've heard, remember, Republicans, remember the deep fakes?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That people were making up stuff about him. Remember how they were saying that they were altering what Biden was doing in the videos?
Right.
All of that lies from MSNBC. And then we go to Joe Scarborough, who said, this is the best version of Biden ever.
Right.
The media pathologically lied to you. Joe Scarborough lied. He knew. But he was lying to his liberal audience. And as we said, liberals love lying to liberals.
And you have to be lying to yourself.
And lying to yourself. I mean, it's we all knew it. We all knew it, but it's good that we now know, that you've actually got people in, and somebody's going to write a book on this. If you've got 50 people they talk to, somebody's going to what really happened inside the Biden administration.
It's got to be a race if it hasn't happened already to get a publisher on board.
Well, you think about it. I don't buy any of these political books. Well, I'll get them free once in a while, but I don't buy any of them.
Right.
Most of them I don't read. That one I would actually buy.
Oh, yeah.
Because I want to, if somebody's saying this is what actually was happening inside, the American public needs to know. We all know, we all assumed what they were doing. We all knew that they were lying. Everybody mocked and laughed at Joe Scarborough when he said, this is, I've never seen him so good. Mm-hmm. This is the best version you've ever gotten of Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, my God. Either you're just a complete moron or you are a complete, total pathological liar, Joe Scarborough.
Right.
And, and then Chris Cillizza you saw.
Yeah.
Washington Post, CNN.
We should have covered it.
I apologize. We should have covered it.
Because the word's getting out. Here's the thing. You've been found out, too, Chris Cillizza. And now you're saying, oh, my bad. I should have done better. Yeah. No, you refused to do it.
Yeah.
It was, you believed, your duty to work against the truth. Why are you ashamed of it now? Because you're being called out. Because it's landing. I mean, this Wall Street Journal thing, as you mentioned, who knows? There could be a book written, or maybe a couple of books. But if you've got dozens and dozens of people in his inner circle that are talking about this.
They're saying 50.
50. You've got dozens and dozens of people from his inner circle that are already talking about this. This is why, again, then people like Cillizza, well, we should have taken a better look. I should have done more. No, you're getting caught being, carrying the water and telling people, I don't know specifically what Chris Cillizza said, but part of the effort on the whole was to make you feel like you weren't seeing what your eyes were seeing.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know what specifically Cillizza ever did in that regard, but if you're not doing the work required that he now says he should have done, well, it's called journalism. You're not a journalist. Why would you start now?
Well, like I said, the one of the best I saw was Meghan McCain. When, just shut up. Basically, she was just shut up. You went after my father when he was 71, saying he was too old.
Right.
Said you didn't go after Biden. She actually said, this would be a quote, because you're a hack.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, that's why he's got to apologize or he's got to have some type of mea culpa. And you may have more reporters doing it too because they look so horrible on it because everybody knew it. And that's where the gaslighting, this is where we all realized that, this is an administration that just doesn't lie. They gaslight.
Yep.
They go after you and they insult you that how could you possibly think that anything is wrong with him? They were trying to convince you that what your eyes were seeing, you weren't seeing. And the public said, to hell with you, screw you. We know what we're seeing.
Right.
And so it's not important because we're finding out that he has cognitive problems. We all knew that. What we're finding out is how Karine Jean-Pierre, Kirby, anybody who stood on that podium and said nothing was wrong with him, the media, all pathological liars.
Yep. Remember the whole, my gosh, Bob Dole, who ran against, in 96, against Clinton. Yeah, he was ancient. He was 73. But he was ancient. Biden, I've said it before, I'll say it again, he's a very old 81. I mean, because of whatever issues are going on.
Yeah, if
this would be my dad almost 11 years ago, and my dad, his mental acuity, I'm grateful he doesn't have any issues there, slowing down a bit physically. But, when you look at Biden and what we have all seen, and the decline has been very clear, even though they go back to 2020 campaign in this Wall Street Journal piece.
Now, I will say this, about my father being 99 in April. He's got very bad pain in his back, which distracts him. But you sit down and you talk with him, his cognitive abilities are as good as they've ever been. It's the physical pain that he's in because of his back that may distract him at times, and so he couldn't walk up to a podium to begin with.
Right.
So he couldn't do it. So, but his actual mind is as clear. Well, I'll put it this way. It's 90 to 95% as clear as it's ever been.
Yeah, right.
And that takes into consideration the pain from his stenosis in his back. And so when you see, we all know it. We've dealt with dementia in our families. I dealt with it with my mom. We all know the signs. We've seen it. We know it.
Yep.
And this is again, is just more the evidence. And I can't wait till the book comes out because somebody's going to write a book on it. Because most books I look at, even the John Bolton book, it's like, I don't care. I know what you're going to say.
Right.
I have no idea if somebody inside the administration of this writes a book and says the real story about Biden and clips start coming out.
Right.
I mean, that's the most exciting book because we've all been BS'd for the last, even when he was running for his campaign, for 5 years, we've been completely BS that this guy is. Remember, as Scott Jennings said, here's a guy who, the young people come in and they can't keep up with him. He's doing backflips and
exactly.
And he's figuring out. He's got his the cube, whatever it's called, the Rubik's cube, and he's done it 20 times in the last 15 minutes.
He doesn't need a jack to change a tire. He just lifts it up. It's up the whole car. I mean, but you mentioned Bolton. Bolton didn't even wait until Trump was out of office to write his book. And it was like, okay, you just took that position so you could write the book.
But there was nothing surprising in it.
No.
This is like, you want to know, how did they hide it?
Right.
We know how they hid it. They lied.
Right.
But, I mean, how did they coordinate inside? Who's the one that put the order in? What things happened from this administration that Biden didn't approve?
Right.
When you're talking about these missile strikes, did he approve them?
Right.
On terrorist groups.
And tell me what that approval process would look like with somebody in his condition.
And if I'm a publisher, oh, man, you get a big upfront.
Oh, I'm telling you right now, it may have already happened. The deal may have already happened, and it's like they're writing it, and it obviously wouldn't be released until after January 20th. But I'm pretty confident there will be at least one book.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley. I'm Gary McNamara. Hey, everybody. Everyone, have yourself just a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Yeah, and thank you to our audience. We greatly appreciate all of our audience, those that listen live, those that listen on the app, listen to the podcast. We thank our sponsors, our production team, Alan and Ron here at the helm, and management and everybody else involved in getting this thing on the air. And Gary, thank you. Another great year.
Thank you, Eric. Yeah.
Wow, man. It was
almost 20 years together.
Yes. Next summer, 20 years together. Yeah. But
Merry
safe
Christmas,
travels, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas to your family, too.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.